So hopefully you were able to join us last time where Pastor Brenda King talked about her family's history and 5 generations of people coming to visit Crane Lake. This episode, we're going to pick up kind of where we left off and allow Pastor King to talk to us about some of the exciting things that are happening currently in the Crane Lake area. Very cool. So just out of curiosity, now that you've had this couple of years in your role, would you say that Crane Lake and Kabetogama, there's obviously some very much parallels between the traditions and the generational visits, and it's all one, big family when you look through, from Crane to Sandpoint to Namakan to Cab, all the way through. But are there definite parallels with the stories that you've heard through the people in your parishes?
Yes, very much so. There are new people coming, and especially owners in the last couple of years of various resorts that are new. They told me when I came there were no children. There are many children in 2 years. Most of them moving in, younger folks coming in and working, and so it's continually changing, and some of the older ones needing to move out because of distances to medical care or family. And so it's a changing place, which I'm sure it's been throughout the years.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you think of your, your family building that cabin and how that, you look at that now, and there are changes, but there's also things that are still the same, which I think is just the beautiful part of it.
Yeah. The area doesn't change. The fishing, the hunting, not in the national park, but outside of it, there's just so much going on that's a possibility.
Yeah. I grew up, like I told you off camera, in Hibbing, and my dad, when I was just a little kid, went up and hunted on Namakan Island. And that was kind of the start of what my Crane Lake story was we went up to visit friends up there, and, the hunting before the park, before the park was in place. And as we've told these stories and done this, call it marketing or storytelling or whatever for the Crane Lake area, it's not going to turn into another Brainerd or Lake Minnetonka or something like that, which I think is awesome. That some of these stories that you're telling, the parallel will be the same. It's always going to have kind of a rustic old feel through generations. And many of the guests that we've had on have said, they can reminisce about stories from 50, 60, 70 years ago. It's not going to turn into some crazy fancy tourist destination of the rich and famous and the elegant. There's something that you can bring kids now, and I've done it with my own kids, where they come there and it's you are kind of going back in time, which is just a beautiful thing. That it's about hiking on the rocks and picking blueberries and going across waters that have been traveled for hundreds and hundreds of years without turning it into this new flashy, shiny place that maybe some of the other tourist destinations in Minnesota or in the upper Midwest have been, which I think is one of the things that's really beautiful about the area.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have this, the resorts don't have room to put up big swimming pools and water parks or anything. It's the lake itself and being able to be there.
And I think for the next generation, kids that we visited with guests, first-time guests and ongoing guests, kids are not, your cell phone maybe isn't going to work, and you're not going to be, quite as connected. And there's something that I think our world and our society needs a little more of that at times. So that's one of the things that I love about Crane Lake is it is an escape to a beautiful place, but it's kind of a turn back the clock. And, all of these things kind of transcend all of the technology that the rest of the world has kind of taken on. Yeah. Crane Lake still provides, like I said, just the simple of, you want to get materials out to a cabin on an island, or if you're going to go visit, you got to go by boat. And there's things that the rest of the world maybe doesn't know about, which I think there's kind of a nice little secret about that.
Yeah. Growing up, it was the CB radios was your only connection.
Yeah.
Ours didn't work real well. We had the big tower, but we could hear in, but we couldn't get out. And that was just how it was. Today it's the Marine radios. I'm also an EMT on the OR ambulance, and we go out to Crane Lake. And so getting the communications, if there's a problem, you have to be aware, you've got to know some basic first aid
For sure.
to cover, because it's going to take, even we have a great group of first responders out at Crane Lake, and they'll go pick up people when they find out about it, but it takes a little bit of time up
For
there.
sure.
And
So 2 years ago, so you've kind of patiently waited, maybe if that's the case, but you've served different parishes around Minnesota. I know you said Southwest Minnesota and Appleton, and even up in Virginia on the Iron Range. But 2 years ago, there was an opportunity at the Crane Lake and Kabetogama Chapel. So just talk a little bit about how that door opened and what that's looked like for you.
well, I'm a United Methodist pastor, and our bishop appoints us. So today they tell us what's open, and the person that was here was moving someplace else, and I immediately said, I'm ready to move, and didn't know if I'd get accepted on that because of how our system works, but they immediately said, yes, go. You want to go up there, and that's the right place for you. And so I have just really enjoyed being here, and it's like coming home, and I know some of the folks already, and
yeah,
so,
you've got a lifetime of stories already woven into the position you kind of, just dovetailed into, which is wonderful.
And so we continue to do some things. I said, they told me there were no children here when I first came, and right away realized there were. We have Vacation Bible School coming up in Crane Lake on July 26th to the 29th, and in Kabetogama, August 10th to the 12th. And then on August 3rd is National Night Out. And so the chapel is, for the first time, going to sponsor that event. And we're going to have, from what I understand, there'll be some things for sale, and all those funds and donations will be taken for the emergency services in the area. And they're going to have a wiffle ball tournament, and I'm not sure what else, but
yeah. You mentioned it twice now, and I think it would be great for us to at least acknowledge. I mean, the emergency services up there are top notch, incredible. I mean, I know that there was recently the fire there in Crane Lake, and you guys, I'm sure, were responding, but you've seen that throughout your lifetime too, that this is a place that leans on volunteers and leans on the community. Talk a little bit about your experience and just the service with the medical services team, because they definitely deserve some recognition.
I'll go back in time a little bit. Uncle Billy died up at his cabin. He had a heart attack, and I was 10 years old. Aunt Nell called it out on the CB radio, and people responded. There was no first responders at the time, but every dentist, vet, doctor in the area came to help. And so very supportive community at that time. But now in the last 2 years being an EMT on the OR ambulance, I've seen wonderful folks responding in the community when there's a need. There are 3 or 4 volunteers right there with some equipment, so they can at least get blood pressures and O2 readings. And so as we're driving out from OR, we get a report of what's going on so we can be prepared. And then at least two of us come out on the rig. And this last year, I think we really have to celebrate. They had a heliport, but it was just gravel.
Yep.
And just in the last 3 months, a cement pad was put in, and we regularly use that heliport now.
Is that the one right down by Hamburg's down there?
Yep. And it's great because it only takes about 30 minutes to get to Duluth from there.
Okay.
And so it's great to have the paramedics. If we think we might need that, we call before we even see the patient. And they are more than willing to, once we see what's going on, maybe we don't need them and we can send them back away. There's no cost because they get practice running up and down, and they do some practicing and training while they're, if that's what happens. But they are more than willing to come. And so they are great to have that paramedic group get there so fast. Sometimes we have to get the paramedics from Virginia to drive up, and that's happened this summer.
Well, again, testament to the community and just the tight-knit group that, you know, with the volunteer fire department and the EMTs and all of the people. I mean, everybody kind of recognizes that we're in this together, and to be able to have folks that serve on that, I think, is just commendable and really
just
wonderful.
All the volunteers that do it, because we're all volunteers. None of us. So when do you have a shift open? You can you sign up, at least for the ambulance, so we know there's somebody here as much as possible. And
wonderful.
The other day, somebody said, well, we're out camping at Crane Lake. One of the other EMTs, you just bring the rig out. And so I'm driving by myself on the rig. I'm going 75 plus down that crooked road. And they had already were at the patient and taking care of them.
That's great.
So people come from all kinds of different places to volunteer on that service.
Yeah.
So it is a great community that supports each other extremely well.
Yeah.
And it supports the chapel and Kabetogama. The same thing is happening over there.
That's exciting.
So it's a great place to come visit or to hang out for a few generations.
For sure. I mean, the folks that are there for we've talked to first-time guests and we've talked to like multiple generations, and everybody has a lot of the same message and just the same, like I said, affinity to the area, which is just, you know, one of the big reasons we wanted to do these Crane Lake stories is just allow people to talk and just to tell their story. And I appreciate you coming on for this episode, Brenda. And we're grateful that you are back kind of in your dream spot and in your dream calling as a Methodist pastor. And Crane Lake and Kabetogama, I know, are both lucky to have you there to kind of continue the tradition and also provide lots of great activities as well as a place to worship, which is wonderful. So thanks for coming on this week, and just really look forward to maybe touching base again down the road with you.
Thank you for the invitation. It was great being